This Dexerdry video explains building decks larger than 20 feet wide and incorporating a centerboard for those larger decks if desired. We ask that you please watch our Installing Dexerdry video and our Dexerdry drip edge video first before viewing any of our additional installation videos. The first two videos, in conjunction with our downloadable PDF instructions, explain most of the Dexerdry installation requirements. Dexerdry is available in 12, 16, and 20-foot lengths, as are most deck boards. The flanges cannot be glued at the ends, nor can the deck boards be seamed in the middle of the run. The deck boards and Dexerdry flanges must run continually in 12, 16, or 20-foot spans. When a deck exceeds these dimensions, we essentially cut the deck in half with a seam or a centerboard. So we see a 24-foot wide deck as two 12-foot wide decks. A 32-foot wide deck is two 16-foot wide decks. And a 40-foot wide deck is two 20-foot wide decks. A Dexerdry deck with a seam or centerboard will now require a small gutter. We'll first go over the scenario of a deck being larger than 20 feet wide with just a center seam down the middle. We frame the deck anticipating where the seam and the gutter will be located. The center of the opening for the gutter is also the center of your deck. We're going to leave a 3 to 3¼ inch gap in the center of the deck framing to accept the gutter. The gutter is made on a metal brake and can be installed before the decking is installed. The micro gutter is a simple U-shaped bend with nailing flanges. The flanges are 1¼ inch, the sides are 2½ deep, and the bottom is 2 7/8 inches wide. We slice off the nailing flanges 2½ inches in from the end of the gutter, cut the sides down to the bottom, and bend upward. Hold the bend tightly together, pre-drill for the rivet size you choose, caulk, and then rivet it together. We drill a hole for a downspout. We'll talk more about capturing and directing rainwater in another video. Here we show installing the gutter before the decking is installed. Be aware that using aluminum for the gutters will require a barrier between the aluminum and the pressure-treated lumber. Direct contact of the aluminum to the pressure-treated lumber causes a chemical reaction which deteriorates the aluminum. Using copper for the gutters is a great alternative. Copper can contact the pressure-treated lumber directly. Installing a piece of adhesive flashing, as shown, is critical. This is where the center of any seams will be, including the freeze board, the Dexerdry, and the decking. The gutter and framing adjustments are now complete. We're ready to install the freeze board just as before, except there will be a seam in the center that should be mitered and glued with a PVC adhesive. Once the freeze board is attached, install your first piece of Dexerdry. At this point, we recommend gluing the Dexerdry, but only when seaming it on the freeze board. Install the next piece of Dexerdry completely, and you'll be ready to start installing the decking on your 40-foot span deck. Follow the instructions from our previous videos on overhang and drip edge measurements. Those same dimensions and techniques apply to any board, whether it overhangs the end of a deck or over a gutter. Use the rubber mallet softly to set the boards, and a chisel with a block of wood to cinch it tight. Follow the instructions on the screw package for when and if you need to pre-drill and attach the board. Continue each row completely when decking with a single seam down the middle. Decking one row at a time, board by board, keeps your rows consistent. This technique helps avoid what we call sawtoothing, or rows of decking that do not line up. Again, follow all previous instructions as far as overhang dimensions and drip edge dimensions are concerned. Once the first row of decking is established, continue the process. Installing each piece of Dexerdry, attaching the deck boards with the top mount screws, and repeating. Job sites get messy pretty quickly. Be sure to clean the grooves of the deck boards and check the boards for any damage before installing. The installation of the grooved deck boards is complete. Routing and installation of the last board is covered in our primary video called Installing Dexerdry. The Dexerdry picture frame and fascia details are also explained in that video. Decks that span wider than 12, 16, or 20 foot can be divided into any configuration. For example, a 30-foot deck can have two seams and use 20-foot deck boards and 20-foot Dexerdry with little or no waste. The deck model shown could be a 24-foot wide deck using 12-foot deck boards and 12-foot Dexerdry throughout. This completes part 1 of our 2-part video called Decks That Span Over 20 Feet. Part 2 will be this exact scenario, but instead of a seam separating the two deck areas, we'll incorporate a centerboard, also called a buttboard. Visit us at Dexerdry.com for all of our installation information, and be sure to watch all of our installation videos. Thanks for watching.